As Caleb's machete sliced through the sacred python's flesh, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the village, summoning an eternal darkness that would consume them all. The gods of the underworld stirred, their wrath unbound. Caleb, a young man from a rural village, had left in search of a better life in the city. There, he discovered a new faith that filled him with a zealot's fervor. Returning to his village for the New Yam festival, Caleb was determined to put an end to the pagan worship of Ike, the revered python. In the village, Ike was considered a deity of fertility, good harvest, and protection. It was said to abhor evil and had stood guard during wars, protecting the village from invaders. Its presence was a blessing during festivals and ceremonies, and killing it was an unforgivable sin. Despite warnings from the villagers, Caleb slaughtered Ike, refusing to perform the necessary burial rites. As he struck the final blow, the air grew thick with an eerie, unnatural silence. The villagers who had gathered to plead with Caleb felt an icy presence settle over them. Enter a realm of unrelenting terror with dark African stories. Subscribe now to horrors that lurk within African mythology. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when we drop another spine-chilling video. Now let's delve deeper into the wrath that Caleb has unleashed on himself and his village by killing Ike, the sacred serpent. Nothing seemed to happen until Caleb returned to the city. Then the nightmares began. He awoke to the sounds of hisses and snakes invading his home. Terrified, he fled in terror, screaming and calling for help, but no one else saw the serpents. He has lost his mind, they said. As the haunting continued, Caleb's mental state began to unravel. He became convinced that his chi, his personal spirit, was being consumed by the vengeful spirit of Ike. He heard the python's voice in his mind, taunting him with cruel whispers. Caleb's paranoia grew, and he became isolated from his friends and family. He started to experience strange visions, seeing ndoki, malevolent spirits, lurking in the shadows. His grip on reality faltered, and he descended into madness. Desperate for relief, Caleb turned to dark magic, seeking the help of a mysterious and sinister figure known only as the snake charmer. The charmer promised to lift the curse, as always, at terrible cost. Caleb's key. Caleb agreed, and the charmer performed a twisted ritual, invoking ancient powers that seemed to draw the very life force from the air. Caleb felt his chi being torn apart, his connection to the natural world severed. But the ritual only made things worse. The snakes grew more aggressive, their hisses louder, their bodies seemingly everywhere. Caleb's visions became more distorted, his nightmares more real. In a desperate bid to end the torment, Caleb resolved to return to his village and perform the burial rites for Ike. The villagers, who had heard of his dealings with the snake charmer, warned him that it was too late, that the gods had been affronted beyond redemption. But Caleb refused to listen. As he prepared for the ritual, assisted by the snake charmer from the city, the villagers noticed a change in him. His eyes seemed darker, his smile twisted, his very presence seeming to draw the shadows closer. The ritual began, and Caleb, aided only by the snake charmer, invoked the ancient powers once more. The air grew colder, the wind picking up, as if the very fabric of reality was being torn apart. As Caleb dug the grave by the riverbank, beneath the towering Iroko tree, a chilling spectacle unfolded. Thousands of snakes formed a wall around the snake charmer, their bodies constricting, squeezing the life from him. The villagers watched in horror as the Baba body began to contort, his limbs twisting in ways that seemed humanly impossible. His screams were drowned out by the hisses of the snakes, as if they were feasting on his very soul. The ritual ended, and his lifeless body was consumed by the serpents. The villagers knew that the abomination had just begun, and Caleb will pay a terrible price. The gods had not been appeased, and the darkness that had been unleashed would haunt the village for generations to come. As the days passed, the village was plagued by a series of inexplicable and terrifying events. The snake charmer's disappearance was followed by a devastating drought, and the villagers began to whisper among themselves about the curse of the python. Caleb, consumed by guilt and desperation, sought out the chief priest, begging for forgiveness and guidance. But the chief priest, shaken by the snake charmer's fate, was powerless to intervene. The gods, it seemed, had deemed Caleb's actions unforgivable. Undeterred, Caleb took it upon himself to perform a ritual burial for the python Iroko, as if it were a human being. He dug a deep grave, wrapped the python's massive body in traditional cloth, and recited ancient incantations to appease the gods. But the gods were not appeased. As Caleb finished the burial, a fierce storm erupted, and the skies grew dark with foreboding. The villagers, watching from a distance, knew that Caleb was doomed. Fleeing the village, Caleb stumbled into the heart of the evil forest, a place whispered to be inhabited by malevolent spirits and ancient evils. The villagers searched for him, but he was never found, and the forest seemed to swallow him whole. Years went by, and the legend of Caleb's disappearance grew. Some said he was consumed by the very evil he had unleashed, while others whispered that he still roamed the forest, cursed to wander the shadows forever. The village never forgot the lesson of Caleb's hubris, and the memory of the python Iroko remained etched in their collective memory as a cautionary tale about the dangers of meddling with forces beyond human control. The Iroko tree stood tall, a silent witness to the horrors that had unfolded. The river flowed on, its waters whispering an ancient warning. What the elder sees sitting down a child cannot see even if he stands on top of the Iroko tree. Thank you for watching, and keep a date with us as we go farther into African beliefs weaved into folklore. See you in the next one.